Welcome to the wonderful world of dance, bringing you exclusive interviews with top dancers and choreographers and reviews of the world's best companies across the globe. You can find lots more on our website at thewonderfulworldofdance.com.
Hi, this is Savannah Saunders from The Wonderful World of Dance, and I'm so excited to introduce Ashley Rita, Artistic Director of the Joffrey Ballet and the Joffrey Academy of Dance. After a distinguished ballet career that included dancing with Nureyev and working with Ashton, Macmillan, Forsythe, Bintley, and many more, Ashley has been the Artistic Director for the Joffrey Ballet for about the last 12 years. Born in Scotland, he has recently been appointed by the Queen an MBE for his exceptional service in the UK in the field of performing arts. It's quite an accolade. Hi, Ashley. Thank you so much for joining us from Chicago.
Hi, Savannah. Great to be with you.
So, let's start with the accolade. This is quite the accolade from the Queen. Tell me about this.
It is incredibly important for me. It was so unexpected. I got a phone call from the British Consul General here in Chicago, who wanted to talk to me. So we got onto the phone together. She told me about it. I think it's a very lengthy process in order to end up being honored by Her Majesty the Queen. I'm just so humbled. I think to be recognized by your country of birth for the work that you have done elsewhere around the world is really, it's just an amazing experience, and I'm incredibly grateful. I'm incredibly proud of the UK for recognizing me for the work that I'm doing in America and elsewhere.
And your distinguished career has really covered such a vast range of companies, but it's all really started back home for you, which is, you trained at the Royal Ballet School, and then you went to dance with the London Festival Ballet, which is now, of course, the English National Ballet. Tell me about that time.
I went right through the Royal Ballet School, and it was kind of an amazing time for me. I got to do a lot of work with the company, the main company. And then when I joined the company at the Royal Ballet, I went on what was then Ballet for All, which they don't have anymore. But it was such a great training ground to be able to do a lot of Ashton, the Macmillan works, and just set me on a course that I wanted more out of myself. And the opportunity to go to London Festival Ballet, which is now English National Ballet, as you said, and to work there with Rudolf Nureyev, because Rudolf had just done Romeo and Juliet. He had done a Sleeping Beauty for them. It was a really great opportunity, and Beryl Gray was the artistic director at that time. So I joined the company, and then shortly after that, John Field became the artistic director. And between John Field and Betty Anderton, Elizabeth Anderton, who is still teaching at the Royal Opera House, they gave me so many opportunities. I got to work with Glenn Tetley, Andrei Prokofiev, Rudolf Nureyev. I mean, it was really endless. Opportunity is everything. And so I was there for 3 years before I then made a big move across the world to Australia.
And what was it like moving all the way to the other side of the world for you?
It's like beginning again. I seem to have always wanted to keep challenging myself. But I remember getting to Australia, getting to Melbourne, and I was going to take quite a long rest because I'd come straight from performing in London. I was going to take about a 10-day vacation, but after a few days, I went in to do class. Dame Peggy Van Prague was still around. Marilyn Rowe was running the company. And they cast me to do Albrecht. And so I went in and worked with Dame Peggy Van Prague on her production of Giselle. I mean, amazing. And then from that, Anne Williams was also there, who had been John Cranko's right hand. And so working with Anne on Romeo and Juliet, on Jagan, just again, amazing opportunities. And it was actually, sorry.
No, I was just going to ask what it was like actually to work with those greats, particularly Krenko, who is so important in the European ballet scene and across the world. Back in the day.
I think that what was amazing about Anne Williams was that, because she knew Krenko's work so well and she had worked so closely with him, that whole idea of having a reason about why you're doing what you're doing, who is that character that you're playing. And so she would constantly ask many, many questions about it. And she was a stickler in a really nurturing way. And I've always remembered my time with her because I thought it was really important. I think it kind of shaped me later on in my career because I was still really young at the time. But just, working with an amazing, talented group of people was really wonderful. And I think my years in Australia they've always been close to my heart. I still keep in touch with people from my time there. I know David McAllister very well because we both danced in the company together. So I love that our world, the world of dance, the ballet world, it is a family, and we're close, and I think we're really good about keeping in touch.
You mentioned that when you went to Australia, you were quite young, but you had already been promoted to principal at the age of 20 when you were with the London Festival Ballet. That's quite young. What was that transition like for you?
It was kind of nerve-wracking. I remember when it happened because John Field had done a new production of Swan Lake, and he was very, very ambitious. He put many different casts on. I think there were 8 or 9 casts that went on and did Swan Lake at the Coliseum in London. And so I did my performances there. I had done a lot of kind of extra coaching. I really wanted this. I'd already done Sleeping Beauty by Rudolph. I'd done Ronnie Hines' Nutcracker, and a lot of other ballets, etudes. They just kept coming. So I think that it was kind of a huge step for me, a lot of responsibility. I think that sometimes, like at a young age, you can carry a lot of pressure, and I seem to have always carried a lot of pressure as a person. So, like my weight would drop to nothing because I just was like burning up my body. But I think that over the years, I've learned to stay on top of that. But it was pretty amazing.
Yeah, it sounds like you've had some incredible opportunities and worked with so many wonderful people. But after your time in Australia, you then made another move off to the Joffrey.
I did. When I was in Australia, Gerald Arpino came out to Australia to set and work on his ballet, Sweet Sanson. And it's a group work, but within it there is pas de trois and pas de deux. And so in Australia, Jerry asked me to do the pas de trois and the pas de deux. So it became kind of a much bigger role. And he was just one of those very fun, very engaging Americans. And he would call everyone my baby. And so I remember him saying, my baby, you need to come meet Robert Joffrey. And so, circumstances in my own personal life, my father not being well, I was traveling backwards and forwards to the UK to see him. I decided that I had to be closer. Not that I wanted to go back to the UK, but anyway, the result was everyone said, you should go to America. Go and see America. And I'd never been to America. So I got on a plane and I came to New York, and I met Robert Joffrey, and I saw Gerald Arpino again, and I joined the Joffrey Ballet, which was really, really informative for me. I think because the Joffrey is a different idea than any other ballet company. There is no ranking here. It is an all-star, no-star company. And Joffrey gave me like a huge amount of opportunities. One, the Joffrey Ballet at that time was one of the largest Ashton, carried the largest repertoire of Ashton in America. So the fact of being able to go back into doing The Dream and La Fille Margardée and Wedding Bouquet and Monotones 1 and 2, and the list went on and on and on, was really a great opportunity to rediscover Ashton's work as an older dancer, a more experienced dancer, along with Franco, because we also did Franco's Romeo and Juliet, Lady of the Fool, Taming of the Shrew, a lot of work. And at the same time, there was Mark Morris, who was just cutting his teeth on the dance scene. He came to the Joffrey. Of course, William Forsythe, who had danced with the Joffrey, came to the Joffrey. James Kadelka, Laura Dean, Twyla Tharp. It was really a whole different education about a different way of running a company and a different way of being in a company. And I think that Robert Joffrey was a truly exceptional maverick. He was a maverick. And I loved my time with him, and it was a tragedy that he died so young.
Yeah.
And I knew the company would never be the same. I think he was an unusual, unique person with a very unique perspective on dance. And so after he passed away, I was incredibly fortunate to have a conversation with Helgi Thomasson, who is the director of San Francisco Ballet. And I went out to San Francisco. I spent a week there. I had been to San Francisco many times as part of the Joffrey, so I knew the city. I knew the beautiful War Memorial Opera House there. And so I joined the company, and I think Helgi has been an extraordinary director. He kind of gave me more in my career in terms of really exploring the Balanchine repertoire and the Robbins repertoire, and having his own work. But he invited David Bintley at that time. So so many people came to San Francisco Ballet to do new work. So I was able to continue to grow as an artist, which I think to be challenged every day and to keep learning and growing is really the most you can ask for in a career. And so I finished my career there. I retired there. I had a very unfortunate accident. It ended my career, but again, thanks to Helgi, he knew that he wanted me to stay there. So he said, Ashley, whatever happens with your injury and the surgery that I had to have done, he said, we will make sure that there is a place for you here. And he was so good to his word. So even with my my halo brace on my head and my upper body, I kind of got out of bed and I went to coach at San Francisco Ballet. So, I became a ballet master, and then I became Helgi's assistant, and it was brilliant. It was really, really brilliant. I owe him so much.
And was that a bit of a precursor to taking sort of more the different roles within the company, leading you to become an artistic director?
I think so. I mean, I think that Helgi included me in everything. He included me kind of in casting ideas, in programming, in development, like going to many events and having to speak publicly. I just felt that he nurtured me, and I have to say that when I was asked to come to the Joffrey to meet the board with the opportunity of maybe becoming the artistic director here at the Joffrey, I don't think I could have been in a better position, and I really owe that to Helgi.
Yeah, it sounds like you had so many opportunities, but at a time where you were surrounded by these incredible artists in these incredible companies, but you've gone on to create and further the Joffrey's work, of course. And tell me about your role over the last more than a decade, leading the Joffrey Ballet?
You know, it was interesting because when I left the Joffrey to go to San Francisco Ballet, I hadn't really been back. And in those 20 years, the company had moved from New York, reestablished itself in Chicago. And so I knew a lot about the company, but I hadn't really seen the company. And I think that when I came to the Joffrey in 2007, it was a very different company than the company that I had grown up in with Robert Joffrey. And I just, I wasn't sure. I was like, there's a lot to be done here. This company needs to be revitalized and rebuilt. And so part of my process of coming to meet the board and meet the company was to also teach the company. And I love to teach. So I taught the company, and the response and the reception that I was given by the company brought an emotional impact to me, and I just kept thinking about Robert Joffrey, and so the opportunity to follow in his and Gerald Alpino's footsteps was really I felt a responsibility. I felt an amazing love, an amazing responsibility, and so I have been here now 13 years. We have built our own home here in Chicago. We have built our own academy, the Academy of Dance, which is the official school for the company here in Chicago. We have an outstanding company of really talented individuals. We have, increased our repertoire, increased our performances. And so, it's to be able to sit here today and say that as a company, we have no debt.
It's quite something.
It really is quite something. And I'm really proud of our board of directors and the entire administration here. Greg Cameron, who is our CEO and president, is truly like to have a partner to work with. It is all of us together. And I feel like the way we do business, the way we talk and plan, it is a very inclusive environment. And so, we've done great things on a lean shoestring. But I think that's how the arts are going to survive.
Yeah,
to be honest.
And what do you think over the last 13 years has been your greatest challenge as the artistic director, or if that's too large to period of time, over the last few years, what do you find is the greatest challenge that you've been facing?
I think the greatest challenge was really getting rid of the debt. When you carry millions of dollars of debt with you, it's a ball and chain. It's not attractive. It's very hard to go to other funders and say, we need your support, but we've also got this huge debt. And I think that, I've always believed as a director that we need to earn our money at the box office. So the quality of the company, like pushing the company to a higher level, both technically but also artistically, giving them the kind of repertoire that would educate, encourage, and nurture them. Also, the same to nurture our audience in Chicago and build our audience has been a beautiful challenge. And when Greg Cameron came to the Joffrey, he took all the ball and chain and all the hard financial problems, and we had a plan. And once that went away, then you could go and talk to people about the long vision of the company and where we want to be. And so, having been able to recreate a new Nutcracker with Christopher Wheeldon, last year we did a brand new world premiere of Anna Karenina by Yuri Possokhov with a commission score by Ilya Demunsky. We have so many people coming in the door. Cathy Marsden, we just did her beautiful Jane Eyre, which was incredibly successful here in Chicago. Andrew McNichol, who is a young British choreographer, came and did a beautiful work last year Andrea Walker, Stephanie Martinez. There are so many people coming to work with the Joffrey. Wayne McGregor has been here, and I think that when I came here, there was this idea that Chicago was not a dance town.
Interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. And I would have to say that to many people, it is definitely a dance town. And I think there are a lot of people to credit with that. And some of those people would be La Lubavitch and Jay Frankie, who started the Chicago Dancing Festival. Every summer, thousands and thousands of people came to see all these different companies from all across the world for free. And I think it built an appetite for what we have today.
Yeah, most definitely. The reputation for the Chicago dance scene has certainly grown over, the last several years on the international world stage, which is so fantastic.
Yeah, no, it's been really great. And, I think that we're halfway through our season. We're about to open a new program, which has Christopher Wheeldon, Justin Peck, Stephanie Martinez, Idzik Galili on it. So, I think that there is a lot of great things happening here. And for all your listeners and your viewers, next year we move to the Lyric Opera House and become, that will become our permanent home. So it's a beautiful venue. It's allowed us to do a lot of new thinking. So I think that next year we have a hugely ambitious season, but also an amazing season.
Yeah, it sounds really exciting. That rep, the roster sounds incredible. Tell me about the dancers in your company. As you say, you're a company that doesn't have a hierarchy, which is quite unusual. That's quite unusual. How does it work?
I think it works. I think it works really well. I think that you have to understand it and accept it. And I think that, we have dancers from 17 different countries. I think that I have always believed in opportunity, and I think that came to me at a very, very young age from being in the UK, from working with people that gave me opportunity. I want to give that opportunity to dancers today. So when someone comes to work with the company, they choose whoever they feel is right for their work. And I think that I try to give opportunities so there are always at least 3 casts of everything that we do, and we rotate casting a lot. So it gives everyone the opportunity to really shine. And so if I think about a season, I would say that over 60% of the company will have done a lead role. And I think that keeps people engaged. It keeps them wanting to work hard because they know the opportunity is going to be there. And I think that in the world, the way the world is today, social media, people get their recognition. There are not so many people writing reviews every day of the week anymore. So if you get one review, you're lucky. But I think social media and people being acknowledged for their work and their talent is really important. And so I think that, there definitely are leading dancers of the Joffrey Ballet. It's just that we don't have a ranking system.
And it's really nice to be able to see your favourite dancers in their lead roles, but it's also great to be able to discover new dancers that you may not have known before by giving them having an opportunity to perform in those lead roles. So as an audience member, it also will add variety, I'm sure, to people's experience.
Absolutely. And I think that, our subscribers, and there are a lot of people that follow the company, and so they've now been able to witness, a lot of dancers that came through the academy at a young age into the company and really track their careers. And it's wonderful that they get that kind of support.
And what type of dancers appeal to you as the artistic director? What do you look for? I know that's a tough one.
I think of a Yuri Possokhov's answer. When someone said to Yuri once, what do you look for in a dancer? He said, I look for really good dancers. You know, I think that the one thing that Robert Joffrey taught me was that talent comes in many shapes and sizes. So the Joffrey has never been a one-look company. We've had really tall dancers, small dancers, um, but I think that there are key things. I think obviously facility technique is a very important thing, but artistry has to be there. And artistry is an innate thing that we carry with us. I think musicality is essential to the art form. Um, and to understand music is really important to me. And I think, I want to be surrounded by good people. So I think you have to be a good person and you have to be a really great dancer.
Yeah, I love that. I couldn't agree more. I think being great at anything, you should also be a good person, which, I think adds to the authenticity
Yeah,
and the positivity that someone can bring to a team.
definitely.
And looking over your career and your role, what have been some of the greatest moments for you? What are some real highlights that I can't believe I'm asking that after you've just given me that incredible sort of, look back into your career, but what really stands out for you in your role?
Gosh, I don't know. There's many. There are many at different times. I mean, I do think that when I did my first Sleeping Beauty, which was Nuriyev's production, which is really hard, really hard. But I think having someone like Rudolph behind you, pushing you to demand more of yourself was really important role for me. And I've always loved Sleeping Beauty. But I also think having worked with, having created works by David Bintley was really magical for me. I think working with Helgi Thomason, I think working with William Forsythe, I feel really lucky that I had
Yeah,
just so many. Glenn Tetley was an amazing. I mean, I remember doing Sphinx by Glenn Tetley, and I was the baby in the room, and to have those kind of giants in our world nurture you, yeah, you can't ever forget that. They're really magical moments. But I would say for all of everything that I've done, I think being a director has been the greatest reward. To see a new generation of dancers get opportunity and grow and nurture them, and see the maturity that they bring with their roles, and to see them, they will be the next generation of teachers and directors and choreographers. And so if we can create a world, a culture that is really about the art form, then we're in pretty good hands that it's going to keep thriving.
you mentioned the next generation of dancers, and we already touched on social media. What are the differences and the challenges that are coming for this new generation, or what do you think they expect of you and of other artistic directors who are leading at the moment, this industry? How can we make it more appealing or more fulfilling for them?
I think that as an artist, you've got to be true to the form. I think that I mean there are pluses and minuses for social media. You can create a world of your own that's made you out to be like the greatest thing that ever happened. But I think that if you want to succeed, you have to respect the art form and what it takes to be a really good dancer. And that means you respect the studio, you respect your fellow dancers, you respect the work. And I always say to the company, you're not going to like everything you do, but the reason that you're a professional is because you know how to make the best of it. And so I think that you have to every day go back to square one of why you wanted to do this in the first place. And you have to kind of shut the noise out because there's a lot of noise. And, I think because of social media, people hear, what people should be doing or how terrible it is that they didn't get this role or that role or whatever. And you have to, I just think you have to respect that, that I'm their director and I respect them for the artists that they are. And I think that to have a very open, communicative relationship with your company is really important. And I think there's room for everyone to get what they want, but it has to have respect.
And with the next generation, you mentioned your love of teaching as well, and you are the artistic director of the Joffrey Dance Academy. Tell me about that role, and are you still teaching?
I am actually. It's been really good. I mean, a year ago I had a lot more spinal surgery, but it's been incredibly successful. So I am really happy that I'm back in the studio, and I feel really good. And so the kind of the way I see it here at the Joffrey is that the school and the company are all in one building, and I have an incredible team of ballet masters, and so, including myself, we all teach in the academy and we teach the company. And so every week we're either teaching the company or the academy, and at different levels in the academy. And I think that it's really important for the academy to be able to look up. And I think it's also great for the company to be able to see, what's coming up. So it's been really a win-win situation. Raymond Rodriguez, who's the head of our academy, he and I, talk a lot about the technique and the training. Karen Wentz, who's head of our junior pre-professional program, we're really a team. And we just appointed a new head of our studio company, Jose Carrillo. So we're really thrilled to have him here. And I think, again, it's not ever working in a silo, but it's working collectively for the greater good of what we want a dancer to come out of a school and ready for a company.
So tell me then, what is your vision for the next 5 years for the company?
So moving to the Lyric Opera House has given us kind of a fantastic slate to create on. So I can tell you that in the next 5 years, we will be creating 3 new world premieres of full-length ballet, amongst many other short new works, and bringing repertoire to Chicago that Chicago has not seen. So I think it's the balance of, bringing existing work, creating new work. I think that for any great artist in their life, to have something created on you is a really important part of our art form. So I'm very committed to that. Hopefully, I along with my partner, Greg Cameron, and our team here, we're going to be able to raise the resources that we need to make sure that the Joffrey has a future that is very stable. And right now, that future looks really promising. And I think that just having a vision into the future of stability, and that, when I do decide to retire, that there is stewardship there, that the next generation can take on a company that is solid.
Yeah, that sounds...
artistically, financially, and with a global reputation.
Well, sounds like you don't probably need another 5 years to get there, but it sounds like you've done an amazing job over the last 13 years. So my final question then, and you touched on it a little bit before, but what advice would you give to dancers today, and particularly those who may be thinking that actually taking on a role of an artistic directorship would be something they'd like to do in their future?
I mean, I think for anybody today is that you have got to love the art form. You've got to really look at it. And I think that the idea of, being a one-trick pony, it just isn't going to cut it. but to dive into your work and dive into your roles and become that human being that is a great artist and a great dancer, I think that's where you want to go. Because being an artist carries you through a career, and being a trick artist is only good for a certain part of that career. And so, my advice is that you embrace everything and you find the positivity in all the work that you're given.
That sounds like absolutely amazing advice. So I just want to thank you so much for taking the time out of what is clearly a very, very busy schedule. But the next year's program looks very exciting. 2020, big year.
Big year.
So for listeners, yes, absolutely. So for listeners and for viewers, make sure you check out the company's website for more information and for those incredible performances that are coming up at joffrey.org. Thank you so much, Ashley.
Yeah, thank you so much, Savannah. A happy new year. Let's make 2020 the wonderful world of dance.
Oh, you're adorable. I love you. Thank you.
Okay.
Don't forget to subscribe. We've got some incredible interviews coming up with principal ballerinas and renowned choreographers. We love dance and ballet, and we hope you'll love us. Join us on Facebook and Twitter.